What's up, guys? It's Dan from Coin Bureau Trading. Today, we're going to take a look at why this crypto market cycle feels different and why it's actually the same as all the others. If this is the kind of content that you enjoy, then be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ping that notification bell. Before we get started, do keep in mind that nothing in this video is financial advice. It's just my personal analysis of the market. Your analysis could be different, and if it is, that's awesome, because the more difference of opinion we have, the better traders, the better investors we're all going to become. So let's get started here, guys, by taking a look at, of course, crypto's 4-year cycle. This is a really handy chart from Caleb and Brown that I've shared before. What makes it so handy is that it shows you kind of like the 4 phases of the 4-year cycle, so to speak. So you can see that we have like an accumulation phase, a growth phase, a bubble phase, and then a crash phase. And so far, everything seems to be on schedule that 2025 is going to be the bubble phase, where basically everything takes off and goes crazy. Of course, this has not happened so far. This is everyone wondering what's going on. Why is this time feeling so different, especially if you're someone who's holding altcoins? I'm sure that's something you're wondering. There's so many people saying that this cycle is different and that it's already topped, or maybe it's going to top later, all this type of stuff. And I'll show you guys exactly why this doesn't seem to be the case. So first things first, of course, this is a chart of the total crypto market cap. And just looking at the total crypto market cap, we can see that nothing here looks out of the ordinary. Again, going in terms of the historical cycles here, where you have this this growth phase and then the bubble phase coming in that 4th year, essentially. What you can see here, guys, is that we're quite clearly somewhere entering this bubble phase, which again, it doesn't happen exactly on a yearly basis. Sometimes it's a little bit earlier, sometimes a little bit later, right? It's not like you start January and then January is like the start of the year. The way that most people measure it is from the Bitcoin halving, and roughly, let's say 12 to 16 months or 18 months after the Bitcoin halving tends to be like in that final phase, like 12 to 6 to 18 months after. That's kind of like where the final phase of the cycle starts, and where we really get that bubble phase, that blow off top move that everyone has been waiting for. That's something that's still coming, and again, just in accordance with historical cycles, is not scheduled to occur either at the earliest over the summer and at the latest in the fall. So we're still kind of in that phase. And if we look at the total crypto market cap, again, this is quite clear that we're still kind of in the beginning phases before we get this massive melt up higher, the same way we kind of did in early 2021. And of course, the question is like, are we going to see one like big leg higher and then a second leg higher the same way we did last time? Or is there just going to be one big leg higher, which is actually kind of what we saw back in 2017? Like, of course, what we're looking at here is like the 2021 cycle. The 2017 cycle basically just had one big move higher and then it was over. This is something that I think is more likely, and I'll show you guys again why that is. But again, just looking at the total crypto market cap, nothing here looks out of the ordinary. Nothing here looks different. It doesn't look any different when you look at the total crypto market cap. But of course, that's because most of the crypto market cap is coming from Bitcoin, and Bitcoin looks completely fine here. This is a chart that I've shared before. Bitcoin basically just broke above this resistance trend line here, this long-term resistance trend line, got above that. It's currently in the process of retesting this trend line, and then in the coming months it will probably continue moving higher, because again, like, nothing here looks out of the ordinary. It looks completely normal in accordance with the total crypto market cap. But of course, it's the altcoins where everyone feels like everything is different. So this is where things get really interesting, and I'll start by saying the reason why I have all this stuff circled here is just to showcase that the crash that we're seeing now, whether it's based on sentiment, whether it's based on technical analysis, whether it's based on-chain, all the indicators suggest that what we're seeing now is identical to the crash that we saw over the summer around August with this yen carry trade unwind. It looks like we're getting the exact same thing now. Of course, there's a lot of panic, and especially because many altcoins, the chart doesn't look like this. The chart looks a lot worse. But before we get to like what's happening now, we have to ask ourselves, how did we get here, if that makes any sense? And so I guess just to refresh your guys' memory, of course, when the spot Bitcoin ETFs listed in early January 2024, that brought a lot of hype into the crypto market, and a lot of people that were already in crypto or were familiar with crypto, like existing retail investors, when the spot Bitcoin ETFs got listed, they kind of understood that, hey, in a few months the Bitcoin halving is coming, and again, according to these historical cycles, after that Bitcoin halving happens, we're going to start to see enormous growth. And by the end of 2024, we should see, like, new retail investors coming in to buy our altcoin bags. So basically what happened is, and we can even see this on a chart like something like Internet Computer, which I would say Internet Computer is pretty representative of what most crypto charts look like. Like, I would say the average altcoin, let's say, looks something like this, right? Where most of the biggest gains kind of came in early 2024. Then there was like a slow bleed over the summer, which again, like, everyone kind of of expected. They kind of knew like, well, this is completely normal. We know that it's going to take at least until the end of the year for altcoins to start rallying as new retail come in. And then as you can see, like this end of the year rally kind of for many cryptos, it just completely failed to materialize. But for some, the rally was not that big, and then it just continued bleeding lower. And now many cryptos are at levels that they had not seen, let's say, since late 2023, right? And this is everyone kind of panicking and wondering what's going on. And I think it's really interesting. It's actually one of my colleagues who brought this up to me when I was having a call with him, and he noted like, I think that many retail investors, basically existing retail, not new retail, but existing retail investors, again, when the spot Bitcoin ETFs listed, they knew that the Bitcoin halving is coming, and that means that in the 12 months after the halving, we should see some significant price action, especially in altcoins. So basically what happened is all the existing retail investors, they bought very heavily, like a lot earlier on in the cycle than compared to previous cycles. Like you could make the argument, and honestly, I do think this is a good argument, that, and it might sound crazy, guys, but this rally that we saw in early 2024 was analogous to this kind of a mid 2019 rally that we saw in the previous crypto bear market, which some people might disagree, but I think that's quite clear. And just think about what would have happened if in the previous crypto bear market everyone knew that there was, let's say, enough people that knew what would be coming, that they knew that this cycle was intact. Which again, back then that still wasn't really common knowledge, but this time it was. Just imagine if that was common knowledge in the past. How big do you think this rally in 2019 would have been? It probably would have been a lot bigger. It probably would have looked something similar to what we saw in early 2024, right? So basically what you could say is that many existing retail investors, again, not new retail investors, but existing retail investors, they saw that spot Bitcoin ETF being approved. They knew the Bitcoin halving was coming, and they said, I'm going to buy altcoins now, and I'm going to wait until the new retail arrives sometime later in the year when the crypto market really takes off and they start to buy my bags. And again, what ended up happening is that, Trump got elected in November of 2024. Everyone who had been waiting kind of during this period in the summer when crypto prices were crashing, especially altcoins, everyone kind of anticipated that. And it's really interesting just in terms of anecdotal evidence. On a side note, of course, we have the Coin Bureau Club here at the Coin Bureau, and it's basically where we have like an exclusive subscription service essentially. And what's really interesting is during this whole kind of crash over the summer, everyone in there was pretty calm. Like, of course, there was a couple people who are like, who are new to crypto, who are a little bit panicked, but most retail investors kind of knew, like, I'm not worried about this crash over the summer. I know that this thing that happened in this rally in early 2024 was kind of like the first leg higher, and we're going to have a second leg higher where things are going to go way higher. So I'm not worried about this crash. And this is very interesting. So during this crash, like, there didn't seem to be much panic in the crypto market. Everyone kind of expected it. Of course, there were some people who were panicking a little bit, but by and large, the sentiment was okay, right? And then Trump got elected in November. Of course, Trump had been promising all this like pro crypto stuff, right? And this got people excited. And of course, we saw another pump. But the thing is, and the reason why this pump, you could make the argument that it was because of meme coins and whatever. But I think the main reason why this pump wasn't so big in late 2024 was, aside from the fact that many existing retail investors, they had all bought in early 2024. So there wasn't as much buying in late 2024. They had already deployed most of their capital. Again, this is just existing retail. New retail did not arrive. And I think that this came as a surprise to many existing retail investors who were waiting to sell. They're like, wait a minute, like, where's the new retail? Are they already here? All this type of stuff, right? Like all these different narratives. Is it because of meme coins? And then, of course, what happens is basically retail investors who had bought all the way back in early 2024, and by this stage they've been holding for almost a year, and they saw, you know what, I'm not going to wait and see, like, I'm just going to take profits here. I don't want to end up back in the red. I don't want to have another 2 to 3 years of bear market, right? And the result was that you saw many people starting to basically sell their altcoins, basically selling the news when Trump got inaugurated in January, and basically prices have been down only because there's been no new retail arriving. And what's really interesting, and again, this is where everyone is saying, oh, it's so this cycle's different, this cycle's different. But the thing is that if we look historically, guys, like, most retail investors do not arrive until, this is a classic Wall Street cheat sheet chart here from the 2017 cycle. Most retail investors do not arrive until this final phase of the cycle, which again, we're still entering that phase. Like, that the peak of that bubble phase has still not happened. It's going to happen either sometime over the summer or sometime later in the fall. That's when all the new retail investors will arrive. But again, what happened basically over the last year is that retail investors bought in early 2024, expecting a late 2024 rally, which again looked like it was going to materialize because Trump was elected, but no, like, there wasn't any new retail that arrived. So all those retail investors that have been holding, even since the previous bull market, and they had been holding through the bear, and then they accumulated more when there was a rally, right? As always, everyone was buying into the rally in early 2024, and they were saying, okay, I'm aware that prices can go down, but eventually they'll go back up and I'll be able to sell out. That, again, that rally at the end of the year did not materialize as they expected. And you saw prices collapsing down, and the result is this extremely negative sentiment that we see now, that everyone's saying it's over, altcoins are dead, altcoins are never going to rally, and all this type of stuff. But again, this is very premature. It's like, it's setting up a scenario where basically existing retail investors who were buying this whole, like, this is all basically existing retail, and let's say like crypto whales, right? That were basically doing all this price action. There's no new retail in this price action. This is all existing retail and basically crypto whales. And what's happening is that, of course, all the existing retail have basically sold out. They're almost like capitulated back to the level they were before they aped into that pump. And this sets the stage, believe it or not, guys, for an even bigger pump, either in the summer or in the fall. Why? Because all the investors that had bought and were waiting to sell have now sold, and they're basically sidelined, right? Like this meme from this like Aptos thing. It's like, oh, are you sidelined, right? But from this Islamic Jihad guy, and that actually I think is pretty accurate. Many existing retail investors have sold out or reduced their positions, right? And they are kind of sidelined, like they're thinking altcoins are dead. Maybe they've gone all into Bitcoin. They sold out of their Ethereum, and they're saying, it's over. But then what do you think is going to happen if we start to see a rally over the summer? Not only will new retail investors be arriving, but existing retail investors will basically get to buy back everything that they sold over the last year, and this is going to cause prices to potentially accelerate even higher and even faster than what people were anticipating. And again, this, in my view, would be consistent with what we saw in the 2017 cycle. And it's funny, like when I mention this, some people will say, "Oh, stop comparing 2017 to now. It's not the same," and blah blah blah. But the thing is that, I guess, 2 points to that. The first is that I find it interesting that many retail investors right now, they're looking at the basically at the current cycle, and they're thinking that it's going to be identical to the 2021 cycle, where we saw like one leg higher and then a second leg higher, and everyone assumes that the first leg higher was in early 2024 and that the second leg higher was late last year, and that most altcoins did not participate, right? Like this is basically the narrative, right? That the first leg higher was in early 2024, second leg higher was in late 2024 slash early 2025, and that means that it's over, right? Because there's already two legs higher, and they say, oh, look, see two legs and whatever. But again, if you zoom out even more and you just kind of look like, well, it doesn't look like that's completely accurate. And not only that, but it's like people are, they're saying, don't you dare compare this cycle to 2017, while they're like implicitly comparing it to 2021, which I find kind of funny. So that's one point. But the second point is that this 2025 cycle, or this 2025 year, is very similar to 2017 in more ways than one. Of course, that's when Trump had his first election year. A lot of people have been like drawing parallels between like the US dollar index and in Trump's first term and what's happening now. But when it comes to like macro stuff, it's really interesting. People say, oh, well, interest rates are high and interest rates are rising or whatever, so there's no way that crypto can rally. But if we go back in time and we look, and again, this is like to tie into my point about how everyone's saying, no, there's no way crypto can rally, because when crypto was rallying last time, there was like zero interest rates and lots of quantitative easing, right? But if you look at the 2017 cycle, interest rates were actually rising during that time. Like now interest rates are falling, but interest rates were actually rising. So you could make the case that it was even a worse macro backdrop, at least as far as monetary policy goes. It was an even worse macro backdrop in 2017, but look what prices did. They went completely parabolic, right? And same thing with the balance sheet. Everyone is saying, oh, there's no way that we can have a crypto market rally without quantitative easing, which means without the Federal Reserve like expanding its balance sheet, without the Federal Reserve buying assets, there's no way we can have a crypto market rally. And you can see that the balance sheet is going down, and this means that there's no way crypto can rally. But again, if you look at the 2017 cycle, the Fed's balance sheet, of course, it wasn't going down as fast as it is now, but the balance sheet was actually declining at that time too. So it's not, in my view, it's not a strong enough argument to say this time is different because of what, right? Like, show me one thing that can explain to me what exactly is different. The only thing that I would say is different, again, is that retail investors, they knew what was, like, existing retail investors from the previous cycle, when they saw crypto prices rallying in early 2024, they knew what was coming, and they all basically allocated the most to altcoins in early 2024, and they were waiting on their hands, sitting on their hands patiently, throughout the summer. They didn't care that prices fell, whatever it was, 30, 40%. It's completely fine because they knew they had high conviction that at the end of the year, we're going to see a second leg higher in late 2024, just like we saw in late 2020, especially with Trump getting elected. Now, for sure, crypto prices have to go up, and they barely, for many altcoins, they barely went up. And all these basically exhausted retail investors that have been holding, basically through the whole crypto bear market, basically holding since 2021, you basically now have this cohort. What you're seeing now, I think, in many altcoins is, again, capitulation of people who have not only been holding since 2021, but we're accumulating very heavily in early 2024. They've been waiting for a year, and they're saying, you know what, I can't take this anymore. I need to sell out. And this is exactly the phase of the cycle where you have this high risk of like an upside surprise because so many people are sidelined, and you have all the right catalysts coming into play in terms of like crypto regulations, and even in terms of, I think, macro factors. There, all this stuff around the tariffs. I think that's all going to be resolved by April. Going into sometime in April, May, we should start to see a meaningful recovery in crypto. And once people realize, wait a minute, it's not over, I think you're going to see, and this is, I guess, a little bit of a prediction on my end. I think what's going to happen next is over the summer or in the fall. I think probably more likely over the summer, you're going to start to see a big recovery rally. And just like how retail investors, they're always looking to previous cycles for guidance. They're going to say, well, in 2021, we saw the cycle top in late 2021, and we also saw the cycle top in late 2017, which means that the cycle will have to top in late 2025. So what's going to happen is we're going to have an explosive move over the summer. Crypto prices will go extremely high. This is my personal prediction. And everyone will say, okay, like, I'm going to like buy now because there's going to be another even bigger leg higher at the end of 2025. I was wrong to doubt the cycle. The cycle was right all along, right? And this means the top is going to come at the end of the year. And I think what's going to happen is that by September, October, prices are already going to be rolling over, and that final rally into the end of the year will basically be denied as a result of probably something related to the debt ceiling in September. That's my personal prediction. So, there's an ongoing debt ceiling debate, and anyway, we'll get into the details there. But point being, guys, yeah, like this is what I hope all that makes sense, and I apologize if I was talking a little bit quickly. But it is something that I guess, as you can tell, it's like something. And it's funny, like a lot of people will say, like, oh, you talk quickly when you're nervous. I think it's actually because I'm more like excited. A lot of these topics, a lot of this stuff is like, it's so fascinating to me, and to finally kind of understand, at least on my end. And again, like, I don't know if this is gonna help you guys feel any better, but it definitely helps me like understand, why things happen the way they were. Again, just to quickly recap, existing retail investors from the previous cycle, they all basically got in extremely early in early January 2024. Whereas in previous cycles, the existing, people from previous cycles would come in towards the end of the year. Like if there had been no spot Bitcoin ETF approval, I can almost guarantee that this huge rally that we saw in early 2024 it wouldn't have been as big. And the bigger rally, like you could almost like flip these two peaks the other way, right? Like, so the smaller peak would have happened in early 2024, and this bigger peak would have happened in late 2024, right? If this was like consistent with historical cycles. But again, because there's so many existing retail investors in crypto that understand the cycle now, so many of them allocated here waiting for new retail to arrive. New retail did not arrive, and now they think it's all over. But again, in conjunction with like historical cycles, we're still not at the stage where you can say that this time is different and no new retail is not going to arrive and whatever. And I do think that all this like bleeding we've seen over the last couple months is basically just like retail. It's capitulation from existing retail investors who have been around, basically holding since 2021, right, or 2020, and they're thinking, oh my god, like it's over. I need to sell. I need to pay taxes, right? But anyways, guys, it's super fascinating. Do let me know your thoughts in the comments about what you think. I'm very curious to get your thoughts. Of course, before I forget, I do need to note that we were using Binance here to take a look at Internet Computers price action, and we do have a 20% trading fee discount and up to $600 in bonuses. That's actually the biggest discount you can get on Binance, and of course, we offer here at the Coin Bureau, thanks to our good reputation, let's say. You can find that deal right down here in the description. It's super simple. Literally just scroll down, and you can see it's the very first one there, and you just click on the link there, and it'll take you. Of course, you'll have to go to the site here, and it'll take you right to the trading fee discount. And again, the link is down in the description, so be sure to check that out. And if you did make it this far, guys, then be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, ping that notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one.